Okay. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to meet you. This is the behind the scenes stories of busy professionals. Whew. I am your host. Okay, let me see if I can get it this time. Ropati Nicolau Mikaeli Peneholo Faleulu Pasi Pene Taulau Usofano. I didn't get it. But you can call me Rob. I am from an island in Samoa, and I'm grateful to be here in the United States because of baseball. Baseball is my ticket off the island. And from there, I learned how to do all this online stuff and emails because collect call to Samoa is very expensive. So I had to get very creative. And I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while. Limiting beliefs stopped me, but 2025 is the year. Yeah, it's game time, no excuses. So I'm grateful to be here. Yes. This episode is actually brought to you by Get Ghosted. It's a LinkedIn ghostwriting service. I know that there's a lot of people on other platforms, but they've decided to neglect LinkedIn maybe because it's not too sexy. The reality is there's a lot of business on LinkedIn. And if you need help managing it, Get Ghosted is the service for you. So if you're interested, hit me up. We got you there. Today, I'm excited to have David Sidoni, like baloney, real easy to pronounce. I'm excited because he's done so many things in business, and the home buying process is a huge endeavor. And he's got the howtobuyahome.com, which is perfect, right? But also the insights that he has just in business in general. This guy, he's been there, done it, and we're going to try to pick his brain, man, to see what we can avoid in terms of mistakes and what we can use to accentuate and accelerate based on his lessons learned. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm just David James Sidoni. It's Italian and Midwestern, not quite as cool. God, I love the Samoan names. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mix it up. It's like, oh man, okay, because it's just part of the village and the different heritage and all. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So to kickstart the conversation, I had this one question that a friend of mine was like, maybe ask this. It could be interesting. The question is, in the last 12 months, if you took that and turned it into a Netflix special,
yeah,
what would that movie be about, and what would be the title?
For myself?
Yeah, for you in the last 12 months.
Okay, the last 12 months would have my Netflix movie would be Building on the Plateau. Ooh. It would be about the career. I jumped 5 years ago. It would have been called Jumping Off a Cliff. To the last 2 to 5 years, it would have been Climbing the Ladder, but it would have been a little Cirque du Soleil. It would have been climbing the ladder while you're balancing the ladder. The ladder would have been business, but I would have had my family and all these exciting events as the balance. So I would have been like a circus freak. But the last year, it's been arriving in a plateau and kind of looking around. And each episode would be, which horizon do I go towards? What do I do to build next? And then I'd probably throw a murder mystery in there just to keep everybody entertained.
I love it. That's really interesting. I wanted to jump into the origin story, but I think what's intriguing to me is you're at the plateau and now you've got all these opportunities, which doors to open. What would be those doors? And then what's your thought process now going through and how you're analyzing those opportunities?
I think everyone hits an opportunity. There's the understanding of where the opportunity lands in your own personal timeline. My personal timeline right now is, what you would call a third act. This is where I have enough skill and experience in what I'm doing on the business side of things I made the conscious choice to scale, but to scale into something that brings me a lot more passion. When you're younger, you got to work, you got to build things up, and then, someday I'm going to do it this way. Well, guess what? 54 years old. This is my someday. Where I'm at right now and the steps that I'm trying to make, it's finding those scalable pieces that will, like all businesses do, bring more customers in, but have that be something that I can sleep well with and ultimately thrive and get a lot of fulfillment out of it.
And is that How to Buy a Home? Is that one of those pieces?
It is the piece.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Now, did that start during the jumping off the cliff era, or did that start? Oh yeah, let's
that
let.
was the cliff, baby.
Okay, okay, yeah. Let's go deeper into that. Then that's really interesting.
So the super thumbnail version of my professional life is in my 20s, I followed my passion, which will be the motif throughout. I got into show business. I had an opportunity like baseball brought you here.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to play soccer, Division 1, and then oops, my senior year an arts high school came to my school and I got told my dad I felt like I really had a lot more drive to sing and dance. So that was an interesting conversation. And so I followed that through my senior year, didn't go to college to play sports. I made a deal with my parents that I could go to junior college and carry a full load and follow my dreams. And then in my 20s, I got super lucky. Got in a movie with Christian Bale and Robert Duvall, and then I was on a bunch of different television shows. And then I did that for about 8 years. Had a career that was you dance with Michael Jackson, work with Gene Kelly. I
Wow.
was the kids' version of Pat Sajak or Ryan Seacrest.
Yeah.
I was the Wheel of Fortune host for the kids' version of that show.
No way.
And I was about 28 years old, and I was hosting a kids' game show, and I just went. I saw the landscape. I had enough experience and realized that within that business, you had to be the top 1% to have people send you projects,
Hmm.
or you had to hustle your whole life. And I think that's where my entrepreneurial spirit came in. People think that actors are entrepreneurs. You're not. You are job interviewing 24/7.
Wow.
So the idea of being able to control my own destiny was something that was really important for me because family was very important to me, and that was something I wanted to do. That's when I got into real estate. I did some real estate investing. Then I met my wife, and we started to pursue things together. And that created a 12-year journey where I moved from investing in real estate into residential real estate. And after 12 or 13 years, not only did I learn the industry, I also saw something in the industry that I absolutely wanted to change. And
Mm.
it was my wife who looked at me one day and said, "You're only happy when you work with these first time home buyers."
Mm.
And so then I took a year to try to figure out, can I scale that? Because it'll bring me happiness. And then 2019, How to Buy a Home was born.
Wow. When you were working with residential, did you know that you had a particular joy when you worked with first time home buyers, or did it take your wife kind of nudging you and kind of showing you the mirror? Yeah, how did that idea come about?
Within residential real estate, everyone knows that's the joy, but it's the lowest return on your investment. And so within the industry, they tell you there's a better use of your time, your energy, and your resources. It's kind of like a personal trainer when you're a realtor. There's only so many hours in a day, you
Yeah.
know, and there's only so many first time home buyers you can work with. And there are a lot more hours and time than when you take a listing and you sell a home. So the industry pretends like logically this is why you cut your teeth with first time home buyers and then you move up and you were in the position where I was, where you have a team, you have other agents working for you, you're leveraging out and scaling so that you can still put in 8 hours a day, but you're going to make more volume.
Right.
The difference is, though, they say that that's why they're doing it, but it's truly because they have a business model built in with the brokers where the first time homebuyers get the worst service and everybody knows it, but they pretend they don't.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that's what you set out to solve.
Yes. I got in the real estate game in 2006 on the residential side and the market crashed. During that crash time, I'm in Southern California, I'm by Disneyland. So I worked with a ton of people who worked at Disneyland. And because the prices were going down, I helped a lot of these first time home buyers keep their dream job working at
Mm.
Disneyland,
Mm.
which has a cap. You don't, it's most of the people who run the parks, they not a lot of them are thinking about, the management and everything. It will have a cap. A lot of them just do the daily jobs.
Yep.
So helping them figure out a way to make a rent replacement strategy and turn their rent that they're already paying, which ain't cheap here in Southern California, into a wealth, a safe, appreciating asset that will develop wealth for all of them. All my friends around here, it's like all our parents, like half their retirement plan was, what am I going to do with my Orange County, California house? Because, if they bought it in the 70s like my parents did, at some point there's 500 to $1,000,000 worth of equity that you have to do what you want with. So creating that strategy system for people was super important, getting them out of renting so they're not spending $25,000, $35,000 a year on rent. But the industry throws them to untrained people, and those licensed agents are basically getting on-the-job training with the first-time home buyers. So that fulfilled my passion.
Yeah.
But I could only do it for so many people here in Southern California, and it was more time, money, and energy. So I had to figure out something new.
Yeah. So what was the new thing? How did you turn it? Yeah.
We're on it, dude. I thought it was going to be YouTube. I swore when my wife said, "It only makes you happy." Well, former television host, Brad, I'll start a YouTube channel, right? But then, thankfully, because of the people that I had around me, I realized that you always want to be learning. So I was constantly listening to entrepreneurial podcasts. I was listening to, and a lot of marketing, because you have to do that at a different level. And some of those podcasts said, "Hey, dummy, you're listening to a podcast. This is a great way to get to people." So I was doing everything. I was doing LinkedIn, Facebook back then, Instagram, and I was doing YouTube, thinking that was going to be how I would grow my business here. And then I went, well, I'll throw a podcast together too. That's a good idea. Little did I know that podcasts are the number one way that people research something as important as buying a home.
Yeah.
Because they could do it when they're washing the dishes, walking the dogs, and commuting to work.
Yeah.
Or working out.
Yeah. Now, are you able to scale the local business, like or did this open up to the entire nation where you could do that too?
Great question. The original intent was to scale the local business.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then I was going to hire some people and train them correctly, unlike the rest of the industry does, and have a team of little mini-me's. And, that way I would sell everybody who works at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And it was really built on the concept of, I was driving to the Starbucks next to Disneyland so often that, they didn't have to write my name on my cup and ask me my name. They knew my name. They're like, "Hey, it's David, the real estate guy."
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I do a podcast, they can listen to this stuff. It's like taking your first buyer consultation meeting with somebody and having them do it on their own. And then when you get to the next one, you can go to a higher level because you're both already a certain level of understanding. Oops, podcasts go everywhere. So a few months in, people are calling me going, "I'm in Denver. Who's like you in my area?"
Yeah.
Then that was the cliff. That's when I went, what do I do? So now I took a couple different business models that are out there to nationally help people in the real estate industry. I took everything I liked about them, which wasn't much. And then I took everything I didn't like about them and went away from that. Mostly the fact that all of them are pay for play.
Yeah.
Like you go on Zillow and there's an agent next to a house you like and you click on that. It's not because that agent is really good at their job. It's because they paid Zillow the most money.
Yeah.
And, Dave Ramsey and all these other people, they have these people they like to call their vetted, unique people. Yeah. They pay a monthly subscription, not to mention an upfront fee.
Yeah.
So I had to create a business model different than anyone else's, where instead of having 20,000 agents all over the country that I go, I know somebody in Denver, I say, I've been doing this now. I'm almost 20 years in business now. And I know thousands of agents. I only have 225 that I think are good for first-time home buyers and that I have vetted. So that's when it became national. And that's when I got serious about having to build a back end, creating scale, being able to service everyone with a personal touch. and building a nationwide direct to consumer business that fulfilled everything for everybody.
How did you get buy-in on those guys, the different people that you connected with, the other agents?
Within the real estate industry, fortunately, I was in a coaching program. I signed up for coaching before I got my license.
Oh,
And it was just happenstance. I was at my training, and one of the coaching companies was going to the Anaheim Convention Center, which is across the street from Disneyland. And the whole coaching process was building a business by referral. And I'm like, well, I know everybody across the street.
Yeah.
So I begged my wife for whatever it was, the $450 to go to this 2-day thing. And then between day 1 and day 2, I begged her for $4,500 to sign up for a year's worth of coaching. She's like, you don't have your license yet. I was like, it's going to work.
Yeah.
And by part of that is the relationships with other people. You quite often, as a real estate agent, will have somebody that gets a job transfer from Orange County, California to Dallas. So 3 to 4 times a year, I would go to different conferences all over the country and meet people. So I had built up a group, and then I went through and vetted all those people. I threw my wacky idea out to all of them. Some of them went for it, some of them didn't. And for the first 2 years, building that group so I could put my name to everybody was probably half my day. I was on the phone, and I sounded crazy to a lot of these people. And now we're with our numbers at, almost 1.8 million downloads on the podcasts, and we're doing over $100 million worth of real estate every year, sending people out. Now suddenly people are starting to call me, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. So those first 2 years, you're putting all that time in with very little return.
Correct. It was, the story I tell people is, you ever hear the stories about the entrepreneurs that sleep in their cars because they believe in what they're doing? There are people that will cash out and take 50 grand or 75 grand and put it into an idea and bootstrap. And there are other people that will talk to VCs, and get angel investors.
Mm-hmm.
I had the fortunate ability to just work my face off for 2 years. So 8 hours a day I was building this. The other 8 hours a day, because I worked them, was when I continued to sell real estate in my area.
Okay. Wow. And it paid off. Well, let me back up. Did you see an increase in the local business faster than the national?
Yes, I did.
Wow. Just from the podcast.
Absolutely. In, your normal realtor, like when I have a team, we were closing 55, 65 in Southern California because of the average price point and blah, blah, blah. It's different everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But, 6 figures is about 10 deals here in Southern California. So you're doing all right. On my good years, I'm doing 25 or 35 deals.
Wow.
Handling a couple transactions a month. In 2022, because of the podcast, I had 14 people that reached out to me because of the podcast in Southern California.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did they find the podcast?
It's such a great question. I have a company that helps me with some of the analytics. I don't know how I found it, but a lot of people listen to my podcast on their Apple Watches.
Really?
So I think it's a workout thing. Like 80% of the people listen on the Apple Watch or another watch, because it could be both Spotify as well. My Spotify numbers are, I think we got 8,000 people that follow us on Spotify. But the error in the trial of error of entrepreneurship was me trying to get people to find us. I spent so much time and money. I hired and fired 7 different social media marketing people. People are managing my social media account. And you have to stay on top of it. Every trend that happened, I tried, and I found a trend on TikTok, and I went from 7,000 to 150,000 followers. Instagram is constantly changing. And then one of the things I found was, when you have a podcast that is education based, advertising on other podcasts creates that niche listener. Someone who's listening to a podcast, if you say something that they want to learn about, they're probably going to listen. It's super expensive. And
Yep.
after 18 months, my listenership increased, but the return on investment was break even. And I didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep doing it.
Right.
So I've been bootstrapping it as we continue.
That's really interesting, because the common suggestion would be, yeah, market, get on every platform. Yeah, run with agencies. So you're saying one thing.
There is something to be said, but it's the timing. Even 5 years ago,
Okay.
if you posted, I have a podcast, listen to this, there would be more interest than there would today.
Right.
If you post something on Instagram that says, I talk about this on my podcast, they don't care.
Yeah.
They just want to see a video that tells them everything they want to know in 30 seconds. And then you have to keep producing those. And then eventually they're going to go, hey, that guy, maybe he goes deeper into this and I can listen to this while I'm on the train or driving to work.
Yeah.
And give him something else. But like anything, you could spend all the money on a Super Bowl commercial and get lots of eyeballs.
Right.
And that's putting my commercial as a podcast on other commercials, or a commercial on other podcasts. It grew my audience, but it was very expensive. And so now we're working all kinds of other things, and we're developing the YouTube channel as well, which is going to be a whole different audience.
Yeah. And you'd think YouTube would have worked in the past,
That's another one. I say we're developing and we're about to relaunch. Talk about an animal. I've spent a year, including multiple workshops, thousands of dollars. It's an animal, and you need to treat it right,
Wow.
And it's very much like podcasting. You have to, I forget the stats, but they're ridiculous. Like, 2.5 million podcasts and like hundreds, under 100,000 or whatever, are more than 6 months. And with YouTube, the discoverability of who you are and what you are can be, from a marketing standpoint, far more important than your content. And so, the year's worth of studying I did, we've had to become thumbnail and title experts. And my personal knowledge and what I say on the video, it's almost, fifth on the list.
Yeah. Wow. So are you operating do you have other passion projects, or you're taking this brand and then you're kind of building different channels within it, like maybe a coaching program, or what's your portfolio look like?
I'm nodding because I understand. The answer is no. What everybody under the sun has come to me and said, you could be making a ton of money with all these different streams.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone else does in real estate. In order for me to be authentic and real to the savvy consumer, I have no sponsors on my podcast. I only have 225 people. I don't get everybody to come in. I don't refer people to people I don't know are going to do the right job for these people. And I don't charge the individuals or the realtors to come and take a webinar or a workshop, because when I started this, I saw the numbers. The numbers are, last year it was like only about 1 million first-time home buyers out of the 4 million homes that closed. But every year it's usually between, about 1.5 million first-time home buyers. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but my goal is the people who want the help that's real and showing them the insider secrets. If we get tens of thousands of those, which is a small market share every single year, we're still a company that's making enough money so that everybody's happy. And we're not fleecing the consumer. So I'm sticking to that, much to the chagrin of my wife, for the last year while I've been on this plateau.
So you're just doing the real estate, but not like what other people would capitalize on, which is the real estate course, the mentoring, the coaching.
It's out there and everyone does it. And when you get into that mindset, what you're trying to scale is scale the amount of people to come in and purchase a product, and you pray they move on. The only thing I'm selling here is education.
Mm-hmm.
I have tens of thousands of people that have gone through the program and have bought their own home. I've also had 10,000 people that listen to my podcast for free, and I ain't never heard from. I get pictures all the time, just randomly, to my website. David, thank you so much. We listened to everything. We went out and we found our own team using all the advice you gave us. This is us in front of our new house.
Wow.
With 1.5 million potential customers on a turnover year after year, I'm fine if not everybody uses me, because the people who find me realize I'm not in it to sell them a workshop. I'm in it to educate them. And then some of them will go, all right, if this guy's that straight up, maybe I'll ask him and I'll interview one of his people, in our quest to buy a home.
Yeah. That's almost countercultural in the entrepreneurial online marketing and business space. So it definitely is refreshing. I could sense that you had this deeper, keen sense of understanding of yourself, and then, your surroundings early on. It sounded like when you knew, what, maybe soccer is not the thing. That's a really bold move to make that early. Yeah. So it makes sense for you doing what you're doing now. Again, that's a bold move, because it's not what a lot of people are teaching, are promoting. Yeah. But I think that's where you're blessed, man, because you're doing the one thing, and you're concerned about the consumer, so they don't fall under the trap of that early, new person just trying to sell them something. That is very refreshing. Now, last question. Did you learn that from someone? Was there a mentor, or is that just from self-reflection? Where did you get that vibe, that DNA from?
A lot of people said to me when I first got into real estate, they said, you're going to be great in real estate because you're a performer, you're an actor. Most people think that people who do well in sales are people who have that in them. I quickly learned that actually it was me working with the people who were on stage, running the stage, the stage managers, the assistant directors. The people who put out fires all day long, that's the people you emulate to have a successful career as an individual real estate agent.
Wow.
Not the actor. It's not the shiny fluff. It's
Right.
the problem solver.
Mm.
And then as an entrepreneur building a business, not just building a business against the grain, counterculture, same thing. So I think that came originally from sports and understanding that, God, when I was a kid, it was Dan Marino doing Isotoner glove commercials where he was giving his offensive linemen gloves for Christmas. And I remember talking to my dad about that, and my dad equated it to my soccer team. I was the guy who scored all the goals, but don't think I wasn't excited to give the credit to the midfielders and the defenders and my goalkeeper. And the team, lifting everybody up through your own personal achievements, no matter how individual they might feel. I think that was the thing that propelled me to the place that I thought, if I help, it's the old Zig Ziglar thing, right? How do you get what you want? Help people get what they want. And so it was a lot of coaches, actual soccer coaches. And then for me, it was really the great directors that I worked with. And then when I started to research on my own, listening to other people's entrepreneurial podcasts, straight up, those dudes with taking pictures of themselves in fancy suits in front of the planes, your 24-year-old life coach. Yeah. No, thanks, bro. How long have you been living? It was the other people, the down-to-earth entrepreneur people who came from a place, and you have to be careful because you can get a lot of fluff and a lot of motivation,
Yeah.
And, when I started in real estate, the secret was really big, which
Yep.
was, vision it. And man, I'm like, my butt was working. I was the kid who stayed after practice and went over drills. That's why I was good, not because I was visioning something. But then understanding the neurolinguistic programming of positive affirmations and hearing people talk to me about that, it's where I learned the balance. So originally I took things from, like, my Mr. Miyagi was a kind of, amalgam of like 10 coaches and directors all shoved into one. And then it became constantly listening to other people who were doing it well. Thank God we live in a great time like this. Look at you and your podcast. It's like, I get to wake up today and have a conversation, and this will propel me to the next level. And continuing to do that and find a little piece from everybody is important. And like I said, I had a coach since day one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So I have 4 kids. 3 of them played soccer. 1 didn't. 14, 13, 12, and 12. The 12-year-old that didn't play soccer, I can tell the difference in her temperament because she hasn't gone through like the teamwork or being coached and stuff. Very different. So I think, yeah, any kind of coach is helpful.
Yeah. And it's amazing how much, my real estate mentor brought Lou Holtz to the mastermind that we had one year,
Wow, love that dude.
and, and then there's an Air Force, a Blue Angel pilot. And then there's someone who climbed Mount Everest. And you're thinking, oh, I'm going to listen to the guy talk about Mount Everest. The Blue Angel teamwork, of course, if you're not teamwork there, you move a little bit, you're hitting a plane.
Yeah.
But the Mount Everest people, that was incredible to listen to them talk about the Sherpas, the conversations, and talking to the people who've done this before you. And then, with each team and with each coach and with each new challenge that you're taking in life, you're always going to find something that can become a piece of the next thing that you want to do. And that's why I woke up that day, and when my wife said that to me, I was like, hey, maybe I know enough that I can actually do what I want to do instead of spending the rest of my days just making money so that I can retire.
Right. Well, man, I appreciate you for being our coach today on being okay with yourself and going against the grain and knowing that it's possible to be wealthy while doing the right thing. Yeah, that's super, super huge. So as we conclude, listeners, go to howtobuyahome.com, right? Howtobuyahome.com. First time home buyers. That's the educational platform that you need to learn everything that you would like. And if you're in another state other than California, there's people there that can help you from listening to the howtobuyahome.com. And if you're listening as a professional, you need LinkedIn management, go getghosted.com. We'll take care of all that stuff for you. So with that, is there anywhere else that they can find you? Instagram handle, YouTube?
YouTube is How to Buy a Home.
Okay, yeah.
Instagram is How to Buy a Home Podcast, because some fool took How to Buy a Home in 2018 and posted 6 times and won't let it go. But it's How to Buy a Home or How to Buy a Home Podcast. You can find me everywhere.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining. And this has been eye-opening, yeah, and refreshing. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Pene.